We have a special guest here today, and his specialty in this particular circumstance is communication. In fact, you could say his entire career was based on communication. We know him as a famous actor, and I have a personal relationship with one of his productions because the day came in the early history of City TV when we were successful enough to be able to afford to put on aftermarket runs of a program called MASH. It worked beautifully, it helped our station at the time, and I had this brilliant insight, which I'd like to play for you right now.
City TV.
And MASH.
What do you think of everything?
I love Radar.
Oh, good.
I think he's got a great body.
I've got the hots for Hawkeye.
Oh, yeah?
I like BJ.
Here, here. I'd be kind of partial to Klinger myself.
What do all these people want more than anything else? MASH? What do they really want?
More MASH.
City TV, Channel 79, Cable 7.
Okay. What I mean by that, and I'm going to make the claim anyways, I think I was the first programming genius to play 2 episodes of MASH back to back. Alan Alda. All right, Alan.
That was fun. Good to meet you.
This is the book.
Thank you so much. Whoa. Thank you. Well, we're a little late, so good night, folks. That's so kind of you. Thank you. So you know I'm very interested in communication. And I want to tell you a story about the night that changed my life. And it really did. It really changed my life. It was the most effective communication I'd ever experienced. I was in Chile. It was 14 years ago, October 19th, 2003. It became my new birthday. You'll see why in a second. I was up on top of a mountain, 8,000 feet up on top of this mountain outside of a small town called La Serena. And I was sitting in this lobby of the observatory where I was going to interview some scientists in a few minutes. And I remember this so clearly. I was sitting on a blue vinyl bench, and I got this tickle in my gut. And within a few minutes, it was the worst pain I had ever felt in my life. And I'm all crumpled up on the bench, and they had a medic up there. I see him looking at me across the lobby. And I don't think he had ever done anything medical before. So he comes over to me, and he says, "Are you all right?" And I said, "No, I got this pain, and I think I went down here. I think maybe I have appendicitis." And he said, "Yeah, I think so too." I didn't have a lot of confidence in this guy, you know, but they had an ambulance up there, one of these big old boxy things. It must have been 50 years old. And they slid me in the ambulance. I'm screaming in pain. They take me an hour and a half down a bumpy mountain road to this little hospital where there's this brilliant surgeon who knew exactly what was wrong with me. It wasn't my appendix at all. It was about a yard of my intestine that had been all crimped up and lost its blood supply. And within a couple of hours, it was going to be dead, and so was I. But this was the communication. This was so wonderful. He leaned over so he could see my face, and I could see his face, and I could still see his eyes through his rimless glasses. And he said, "Here's what's happened. Some of your intestine has gone bad, and we have to cut out the bad part and sew the 2 good ends together." And I said, "Oh, you're going to do an end-to-end anastomosis?" He said, "How do you know that?" I said, "Oh, I did many of them on MASH." And that was the first operation I learned about. So while I was doing that operation in Beverly Hills, he was watching it in Chile while he was in high school. But the thing about that was how clear it was. He didn't dumb it down. That was exactly a correct way, an accurate way to describe the operation, what he said. I was the one who used the fancy language. That was my sickness. I'm on my deathbed. I'm trying to get a laugh out of the doctor, you know. The opposite of that good communication was also a medical experience. I was over the age of 50, and I had to have a front tooth taken out because I had broken it when I was 12 years old. So the dental surgeon had this pet operation he did, where he said, I'm going to pull this piece of gum down over your socket, and it'll get a blood supply, and it'll be much better. I said, okay. So now he's getting ready to do the procedure, and he has this scalpel like inches from my face. And that's when he says, now, there'll be some tethering. I said, what do you, what? He said, tethering. I said, what do you mean, tethering? He said, tethering. He starts to scream at me. I still don't know what he meant by tethering. And even though I was old enough to say so, I didn't say, put the knife down and let's talk about this. I want to know I was impressed with his surgical gown. They said, go ahead. So part of the operation, it turns out, included cutting that little bit of tissue up here. If you put your tongue up there between your gum and your upper lip, the frenum. I don't know what else it does, but one thing it does is hold your upper lip up. And after the operation, I was making a movie, and there's a scene, the shot where I had a smile, and I smiled, and the cameraman came over to me and said, why were you sneering just now? So I wasn't sneering. He said, no, go look in the mirror. And I didn't. I was, you know. So he had given me a smilectomy, you know. And he didn't explain it. And when I said that maybe it's a good idea to explain these things, he sent me a letter trying to get out and maybe to, present his case so I wouldn't sue him. I had no interest in suing him. I just wanted him to communicate better. But one good thing was it enabled me to play villains much better. And the other thing was I really thought about communication, how important communication is. And the experience I had doing that science show, where I was up on the mountaintop interviewing the astronomers, that for 11 years we did that, 11 years, and it was almost always good communication between me and the scientists I was interviewing. Because I stumbled into something I didn't expect, because I didn't have much experience interviewing, and I started to find that if we just had a real conversation where I simply wanted to know what their science was about, what was it, how did they do it, what did it mean, what did it mean to them? And I just came in with my own curiosity and my own natural ignorance. And I didn't pretend to an ignorance I didn't have, it was my own pure ignorance. But it was coupled with curiosity. Ignorance is a wonderful thing as long as it has curiosity attached to it. Ignorance without curiosity is not so good. But we just had a conversation. And that made something real happen back and forth between us. It was relating. It was what I had experienced on the stage all my life. And it was something on the stage I had to learn. It doesn't come quickly. Even though we're social animals, sometimes we have to learn to relate to one another. And I had to do it as an actor. I read about it. Directors would tell me to relate more, and I didn't know what they meant. I knew it had something to do with the other person's face. So they'd say, relate to her more, and I'd go like this. No, you're not relating. Relate more. I'd go like I didn't really get it. I didn't realize you can relate to somebody if their back is turned to you, if you just by observing their body language or their tone of voice. Just the smallest clue can tell you who they are. And after I finished doing the science program, I realized, wouldn't it be interesting if we could teach scientists to communicate with that ease, that freedom, that open channel between them and their audience, the way they had with me, only to be able to do it on their own without somebody like me drawing it out of them. So I experimented with a group of engineering students, and I taught them improvisation. I had them come into the room and talk one at a time about their engineering work for just a minute or two. And then we improvised for 3 hours. And then each one talked about their work again. And it was astonishing how much of a difference there was. Because this is not the kind of improvising most people are used to seeing. Most people are aware of improvising as comedy improvising. This is a more basic kind of improvising where you're turned on to the other person. You've got to observe the other person. If you don't observe them, you can't do the scene with them. You can't connect with them. And this gives you the opportunity. Ian, it's no good to talk about it. Do you mind being a volunteer? You're right by the stairs. Yeah, you want to do it? Yeah, you look brave. No, not you, her. No, her. Yeah. No, don't point at each other. You. Either one, doesn't matter. Go up the stairs, and the stage manager will show you how to get out here. So this is just learning to connect. I'm going to show you one of the basic exercises that puts you in connection with the other person. Hi, what's your name? Angie? Yeah. No, we don't need a mic. I'll do it for her. Thanks. Good. So hello, I'm Alan. Come on over here. So let's stay right there. Now, in this game, you're my mirror. Right. So perfect. Whatever I do, you have to do exactly at the same moment, just like a real mirror. So you got to observe me really carefully. And now I got to take care of you and make sure that you're following me. So if I do,
to smile?
Yeah, sure. You got to mirror me completely. Oh, see, look, it took a little while to get up there. See, it's not going to work that way. I have to take care of her. She's my partner. I have to make it easy for her to follow me. So let's hold on one second. So this is a basic lesson that it's up to the communicator for the person being communicated to follow. I don't say to you, get better at it, pay attention. I make it easy for you, right? And the other thing it teaches us is to really watch each other really carefully. Now, I'll show you another exercise that comes after this. If I have a ball in my hand, now you're not the mirror. Now you can tell how big the ball is, and you can tell how heavy it is by how I handle it. It's just made out of space, but you see what it is. And if I toss you the ball, it's a little like the mirror thing. You have to catch the exact same ball. It has to have the same weight and the same size. Pretty good. It's a little smaller than the one I sent you. Okay, toss. Okay, I'm going to bounce it. Catch it on the bounce. Whoa, look at that. See, the ball came into existence there for a second. It's because we both agreed on it. Something that doesn't exist comes into existence by common agreement. It's like democracy if we ever tried it. Okay, throw the ball away. Okay, here's a beach ball. Now, much lighter, bigger, right? Oh, fantastic. Send it to me. Here, pass it around. Yeah, good. Send it up to Angie. Far out. Very good. Thank you. Terrific job. Thank you. So we were teaching scientists to connect with one another, and after they learned to connect with one another and feel good and free about that, when they turn to an audience, they're talking to real people. It's not as though they're talking to people. They're really talking to them. They're looking them in the eye. They're making contact, just like Dr. Zepeda in Chile did with me. They're connecting. Instead of looking over their heads to quell their fear, they're getting pleasure out of the connection. And we've trained now all across the United States and in Canada, Australia, around the world. We've trained over 8,000 scientists in this method. And it's wonderful to see them transform, to see them win prizes for speaking. One of our students became the Teacher of the Year in Norway. I have a contest for scientists to communicate with 11-year-olds, to answer a question that's complicated, like what is time, what is energy, what is a flame. It's called the Flame Challenge. and they have to make a video or a short statement, and the contest is judged by real 11-year-olds all around the world. And this was so successful in this last year that we just had the contest. What is energy? The woman who won the contest in the video category comes from Australia, and she was trained in this method at the Australian National University. And she was judged the best, the winner, the best explainer of what energy is by these kids. So we didn't judge her, the kids did. So it really works, it transforms people. What I started to realize is, as we train these people, they were telling us, this applies to more than just scientists. One scientist said, a great scientist, a senior scientist said, I communicate better with everybody, including my wife. And another one said, this training has saved my marriage. And I started to realize, and that's what made me write the book. And the book's title sort of says what this is about. If I understood you, would I have this look on my face? And that's really the essence of it. My first title for the book was more the negative side of it. The title was, Huh? But this is better because it's more positive. It kind of points to what the solution is. Observe one another. Find out what's going on in their head. See if you can take over their perspective to some extent. And it really works with everybody, with couples, with parents and children, with people in business, employers, employees, salespeople, couples, for instance. Just to give you an example of what I mean. You see, it's based on empathy. This taking the other person's perspective is really an empathetic stance. And empathy doesn't necessarily make you a good person or make you sympathetic or compassionate. But if you have that inclination, it really helps. It's a good tool. I mean, bullies have what I call dark empathy. They know how to get empathy. They know how to read your emotions, and they know how to play your emotions so they make you feel terrible, and they can read that and they get some pleasure from that. But empathy is just a neutral tool, and if you have a good impulse, you can use it for that impulse. Like, let's say, take a couple. It's late at night after dinner. The husband's been working. The wife is already asleep in the other room. He passes by the kitchen sink and he sees a big pile of dishes in the kitchen sink. And he thinks, maybe I ought to do something about that. What are the chances he's going to do something about it? I don't know, maybe. But if he has a little flash of empathy and he imagines what it must be like, what his wife might be feeling in the morning when she wakes up and looks at the sink, he might have the impulse to carry out on his good intention, and he might do the dishes. He might find out that doing the dishes is foreplay. Doctors, it's very important for doctors. When studies have been done on this, and when patients rate their doctors as having empathy, the patients are 19% more likely to take the doctor's advice. I think that's a big number. That sounds to me like there are some lives being saved in that 19%. But the question is, does everybody have empathy? And do you have just what you're born with? Or can you get more? Can you get enough to make this kind of thing happen? And there are people who teach empathy. We teach empathy, but different people teach it different ways. But it's actually possible to develop empathy. One way is through these improvising exercises that I was telling you about. But I realized as I was writing the book that you can't keep going to an improv class. You need booster shots, and you're not going to be able to get the booster shot at an improv class. And if you don't practice it, this is what's amazing to me. If you don't practice empathy, it goes away. You get a little weaker in that department. So I thought, wouldn't it be nice if I could find some emotional, solitary gymnasium workouts I could do on myself, by myself. So there are some things that are suggested by some psychologists as ways to develop empathy. And I've tried a number of them, like meditation, Tai Chi. One person suggests that you watch an emotional television show with the sound off, so you read the people's emotions, which is an odd but interesting thing to do. Other people suggest reading novels, not potboilers, but great literature where you see the emotions of these people and you follow their emotional life. I have a problem with that because I love to read science so much, or history, factual things, nonfiction. I almost never read novels. And so it's so bad that I joined a book club that only reads novels to force myself to read novels. And there's wonderful, kind, intelligent people in the club, and they can't understand me. And sometimes we're sitting around the table talking about a book, and they say, "Why don't you like novels?" And I say, "Because you can just tell they're making it up." So that's a problem I have. So I had to develop some kind of workout for myself. So I thought, reading emotions. I'll just try reading emotions as I walk through my life, as I talk with friends, or I pass people in the street, or I have to have a more than a passing encounter. When I'm talking to a cashier in a delicatessen or something like that, what is she feeling? What is she going through? And just observing them, just looking at them. And the funny thing was, I felt it began to have an effect on me. It changed me a little bit. I think it changed my face and my voice because I started to see other people change as they talked to me. It really kind of reached a height. One day in Manhattan, I was at Columbus Circle and I was hailing a cab. So the cab pulls up and he rolls down the window and he says, "Where are you going?" And usually I get furious when I hear this. It's against the law to not take somebody. It doesn't matter where you're going. You don't ask them before they get in, because if they don't like where you're going, they drive off. And I used to drive a cab in my 20s. I had to take them where they wanted to go. I dug my cab out of a snowbank at 2 in the morning one night. So I don't have much sympathy for them. I get angry when they say, "Where are you going?" before they let you in. But this time, I'm full of empathy. And I start to think, where's this coming from? And I think, it's 4:30 in the afternoon. He's got to go return the cab to somebody else. He's been on duty all day long. He's probably tired. So I'll tell him where I'm going. He says, "Fine, get in." I get in the cab. I give him the exact address. He says, "What's the cross street?" Now I could get angry again. I'm furious at this. Aren't you supposed to know the cross street? That's what I want to say to him. He's the driver, right? Instead of that, I say, "I'm looking it up for you on my iPhone." Now we're in an ecstasy of empathy. And he says to me, "You know, you're a very nice person. People get in this cab, they don't care about other people. I've had to go to the bathroom for the last half hour. But I'm taking you exactly where you want to go." I said, "No, don't do that. No, I don't want you to be in pain. Drop me a block away so you don't have to go around the block. I'll get out, I'll walk a block." He says, "No, I'm taking you right where you want to go. You're too nice." Now he's giving up his kidneys for me. The amazing thing is, a little empathy makes people less annoying. Well, that's a great boon. I love it. The only thing is, it's not a formula. You can't hear about it and decide to do it. It goes away if you don't practice it, which I don't understand, because we're social animals and yet we behave as if we're condemned to one another's company. But it's like a muscle that you got to work out and keep strong. You don't just go to the gym once. You got to keep going. The only thing is, this is better because the gym is fun when you leave. This is fun while you're doing it, because it really is fun to connect with another person. But we don't give people a bunch of tips. We put them through experiences that transform them. That's the difference. I don't like tips. Tips go in one ear and out the other. It's an intellectualization of the process. This is an example of what I mean about tips and experiences. There's a speed sign near where I live, out on Long Island in the country. And the sign says 25 miles an hour. And I have always gone past that sign at 40 miles an hour. I see 25, I go 40. One day, a cop stopped me and gave me a ticket. And from that moment on, I only went 25 past the sign. The sign was the tip The ticket was the experience. But it's not a formula. It's not a formula. It's an improvisation. Sometimes it works great, sometimes not so great, sometimes it's beautiful. I'll tell you one last story before I go. I was on vacation with my family. We were in the Virgin Islands. And I was walking down a path. It was gorgeous. I was walking down the path with my grandson, Mateo. He was about 6 years old. And we were seeing things we had never seen before in the tropics, you know, trees and plants that were so unusual. On the side of the path, there was this one tree with spiky things all the way up the trunk of the tree, a little narrow trunk. Looked like a dragon's back. And Mateo said, "Grandpa, look at that tree. How did it get like that?" And I thought, oh, this is great. He's asking me an evolution question. This is wonderful. I can explain evolution to him, and he's asking me about it. So we sit on the ground, and we talk for 45 minutes about evolution, about adaptation, natural selection, the whole thing. It was glorious. And the next day, he's swimming with his cousin, and he asks her a question. And she says, "That sounds like a science question. Why don't you ask Grandpa?" He says, "I'm not making that mistake again." Thank you.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are you able to stay a while? Or
I got to get on a plane. I'm sorry. Got to get on a plane and go back to New York.
You could have stayed and enjoyed our
I
conference.
know you have wonderful people talking. I just heard. Oh, that was me. I'm sorry.